Okay, go. Thorolf, hello. How are you doing? How was your socializing? Man, you have a key light on. It really highlights just how dirty your glasses can get. You got a bright light shining in your face. Is this a second Friday stream, or have you also entered the Saturday? It's the second Friday stream. I am trying to make sure I stay active. I just feel kind of sleepy and I don't want to waste my evening, so I figured I'd stream. So here we go. Ian, which is banned in Turkey, no more Twitch for me. Yeah, I was in Sito's chat and one of his viewers was saying it was banned. That's sad. I like how Twitch is banned by the National Lottery Association. In Turkey, Turkey has banned Twitch. Yeah. It was good. A little tired from 1.5-hour train ride back home. Oof. That's a long travel. Well, then I'm very glad that I'm on YouTube as well. Glad to have you here. It's just kind of funny that the National Lottery has banned Twitch because of gambling. It seems hypocritical. Oh, I'm going to get a smudge on my glasses that this won't clear. Board game cafe, good food and beer made it all worth it. Nice. Huh? Socializing is good. What ID? This is Ryder. This is JetBrains Ryder. My favorite. So yeah. Okay, so what am I doing tonight? I am going to work on adding the rest of the entities. Radio Patrick, good evening. How you doing? This is an off-schedule Friday night stream, just to keep me busy. But I go and sit in the living room and fall asleep. Previously on the stream, this morning, I left this kind of in a bit of limbo. So what I've been working on, and it's diagram time, is this whole promoting this information through the consumer and right. JetBrains. So the good thing about JetBrains is they offer their full product pack, right? $289 for everything, right? Per year for the first year. But once you get down to the third year, you're only paying $173. Chris Jones, thank you very much for the raid. Welcome. Now, am I included in that raid, or am I boosting my own figures there? Chris Jones has just made the stretch to finally get affiliate. You don't get counted. Well, hopefully that stream took you over the line, right? The finish line for the requirements. So what I was going to say then is, so for JetBrains products, $289, after the third year, you're only paying $173 a year onwards. So there's the value. So you get all the products, you get all the updates. If they add new products, the only thing they didn't add is they did not add the AI tool, which was kind of upset over. Like if they'd have given me the option to add in the tool or something, that'd have been better. But they have WebStorm, RubyMine, PHP. But this isn't everything. So if I click down here, this is finicky. I get Rider, DataGrip, ReSharper. They also put their early access programs in here as well. So Rust, Golang, Fleet, IntelliJ. So they give you all the products in there. So I think it's quite a good value for the money. Like I said, once you get to the third year, you're paying less. So yeah. And I don't know if they still do it, but JetBrains, what they would do is when you stop paying, you get the version of the ID at the point you stop paying. So whatever the last version was that you actually received, you retain. So you can always log in and get that license. I don't know if they still do that, but that's what they used to do. I've got like PHP Storm from 10 years ago or something like that. So, yeah. Yeah. The licenses changed over the time, but I'm not sure. But I just pay the $170 a year happily because I'm getting all these tools and I'm using them. I mean, I always have DataGrip open. DataGrip for database connections. DataGrip does more than just SQL DBs. I can connect to all sorts of data sources in here, right? Oracle, HSQL, Azure stuff, so I can connect to everything. Low blow. PHP's, but the thing I like is if you are using multiple IDEs, right? So if I open, I think I've got Rust Rover, right? If I open Rust Rover, it's going to look the same as Rider, and you can actually take the same themes, so you can move between the different products. And yeah, Chris Jones is mocking me because I took on a job the other year and I became a PHP developer after doing 20 years of .NET development. But I'm a PHP 5.6 developer, not a so it's a bit of a sore subject. Better than NetBeans. So yeah, if I open this, this is all the same. So the IDE feels familiar. It's pretty cool. That C++ IDE didn't click for me. What's amusing to me is Sea Lion is there, but if you do Unreal Engine development, or you do if you do Unreal Engine development, the tools are built into Rider, so Rider has all the C++ stuff as well. I took on a job with PHP about 8 months ago, quit within the first few months, not because of PHP. Yeah, sadly that happens, right? So like I don't have any major gripes particularly over PHP. It's just that I've been a .NET developer for a long time, and I wasn't expected to be a developer when I took the role. So that's all that is. I don't have any major gripes over PHP, especially modern PHP. Yeah. So I do a new solution in Rider these days. C++ library console application. Let's see. Elevator, yeah. There you go. Yeah, we'll be closing that quickly. I'm not embarrassing myself in that way. C# is my go-to now. It is easier. Well, again, yeah, I've been using .NET and more particularly C# for 20 years, so I'm very comfortable in my C# world. I'm sharper. But yeah, it's just where I'm comfortable, right? But I've picked up Unreal a few times and been tempted to try and dig deeper, but I just don't have the brain power to sit there. So Godot might be, but yeah. C++ CLR. Oh, I forget that's actually a thing. Have you ever done WPF? Not really. Some, and I've done a lot of Xamarin. I did a lot of Xamarin. I haven't done it recently. So it's not my any amount of XAML is not my favorite world to be in. Not because the IDEs have just been really clunky with it, and that's one area that Rider is definitely not as good. Windows Forms stuff, WPF stuff, the XAML stuff, particularly. Visual Studio is still much more accomplished as a product there. Nightmares of coding in C++. C++ CLR, sorry. So, I was just curious about the WPF because I'm starting that, and it seems like not many people who do C# are into the WPF stuff, which is quite interesting to me. I mean, there's quite a lot of different. The problem is Microsoft's kind of let it fall to the side, then resurrected it a little bit. You know, there's Avalonia UI. This is WPF based, right? I worked on web forms and .NET Framework MVC for 1.5 years. It was hell. Those were interesting times. It's actually early on in MVC, when in like 2009, 2008, 2009 area, I think, around that time period. I actually went to Ruby on Rails to get my head around how MVC actually worked. Web forms I've disliked since the moment I met web forms, so that's kind of why I don't sit well with Blazor. Yeah, Ruby on Rails was quite nice actually, but it got me in the right headspace for how MVC patterns worked. Loved WPF, but lacking multi-platform when I was using it killed a lot of my interest. So this product Avalonia has kind of kept WPF going. Language. I don't know why I didn't block that. That's funny. Avalonia is an interesting thing, but I haven't looked at it. Feels like there's too many now, and none of them are fully complete. Avalonia does cross-platform, I believe. Yeah, cross-platform. Webform was evolutionary at the time. Yeah, Webforms was just. I think I started doing Webform stuff because I'd been doing Windows Form stuff when I first started. So it's Windows Web Forms just didn't sit right. Did you see the announced Avalonia has opted to leave the .NET Foundation? Oh, interesting. I wonder why. But you know, there's definitely options for WPF, and it's just apparently they got rich writer support. I didn't see that. I haven't kept as much of a track on things recently as I would normally. Again, falling out of it because it's not in my day to day, right? So if it's not the technology I'm working with, then I'm not really kind of focused on it. But I'd be interested to know why they've dropped out of .NET Foundation. Yeah, that ain't gonna link. I'm gonna drop it in Discord. General in Discord. Ah, Rambling Geek. Thank you. Is this just explaining what? Oh, they're just explaining is WPF dead. Okay. Keeping it with .NET is a hassle. Johnny, hello. How you doing? That's fine. Uh, oh, so there must be some. There must be some. They want back. There must be some rules they have to follow to be part of Foundation. So it's legal and structural change. Okay, just trying to unwind themselves. Ah, interesting. This is technology, right? This is as long as people are engaged and aren't dropping off the stream in droves. This says that people are happy to talk about this stuff, right? So, Avalon is continuing to replace it. Yeah. But again, Microsoft has made, again, that's one of the technologies that Microsoft have made mixed messaging over. They kind of tried to move away from it a little bit, and they've gone back. With Maui, they've gone like the whole, you can do the code or you can do the WPF. So they kind of dip their toes in both pools at the same time, right? So they made more of a mess there. So that's kind of why I haven't picked up any of the modern. So actually, Flutter is the only thing I've actually looked at mobile wise recently. But so Microsoft keeps sending out these mixed messages. I mean, in that respect, they're kind of worse than Google for the product willingness to pull products, etc. All the new stuff for C# scares me. Not to mention the beast that is Azure. Yeah, I think you guys are on the same. Flutter is something that I've loved playing with. I'm definitely, when it gets to it, I'm definitely building a Flutter UI for this app, whether it be mobile specific or whether it be general desktop app. Because one of the things, again, with this application, one of the things I want to focus on is the ability to have smaller views that don't include having the entire thing. And being able to have like developer focused views or like work lists that integrate. So there's definitely a need there. So Flutter is probably one of the technologies I will play with, because it's just that much more. But I as a .NET developer, giving the whole Blazor, Maui, WPF, all these technologies, they kind of cross over, and even the web stuff, right? Am I meant to use Razor Pages, Blazor? What's the difference? What am I setting up? What tools am I using? What transfers where? Like, just getting to know that from the outside. There's no like, here's how to develop a website in .NET. There is, here's how to develop things in .NET, and you've now got a dozen different options. And none of them say, hey, we're more supported than others. Thank you for the look, Mr. Jones. Thank you for the raid. So I guess that's where Microsoft's struggling with .NET in general. I mean, I still love it. I still feel super productive. C# does not bother me. Yes, I get that some of the C# stuff that's coming isn't very intriguing. The .NET, the C# 9 stuff looks like it's upsetting some people. From a sorry. From just an uninspired next generation, like of changes, it looks like it's pretty meh as far as the release. But I guess we'll see. I love C#, but sometimes it really sucks to have 17 ways to do any given thing and no consensus on best choices. Yeah, it's definitely and part of the problem is that with new shinies coming along all the time, .NET's constantly chasing and evolving to meet the needs of what people are after. So like I've said, if you look at this code base, not really object oriented, it's functional, right? Even though I've got classes, right? I've got classes nested in classes to represent bundling up behavior, but ultimately I'm calling a method here. I'm using this very functionally in its form. I'm not using a lot of inheritance. I'm not really using objects or defining relationships with objects. And again, C# has evolved to support more of that style, right? Records and things like that to support passing data around quicker. It's harder. Overall, I do love C#, but I just can't follow along with its frameworks and all the changes now that I'm not working with it all the time. Yeah, I mean, even as someone who has been, I mean, again, I'm not recently working with C# very much, other than my stream, but it's still something that is very confusing. And then you add in cloud and you add in Azure options, etc. It just continues to be harder. But then the other option is more fragmented combinations, frameworks that don't support all the things that .NET do. Again, talking about new shinies, right? I brought up Go before, right? There's all these people that are like, oh, use Go, and there's definitely a kind of a tide there, but that doesn't have all the same tooling, or it doesn't support all the same things. So it's a niche thing for right now. So Go is awesome, and that's great. But again, it's like, for me, C# is something that I love using. I think it's a very simple language overall to get into. If a little harder once you start, like Patrick mentioned, there's a lot of different ways to do things, and sometimes you're looking for what's the right way. And again, part of the problem I was going to say before is because this language has been around for over 20 years now. You look on, I mean, the Stack Overflow stopped being a useful source of information years ago for me. Most of the stuff you find for C#, etc., is from like 2012, and C# has evolved massively since then. Where all the best libraries are older than me and written with Safe ++ Cave. Yeah, I read the presentation they wrote about all the issues they had with C and everything and how they fixed it with Go. Go read. Yeah, I was watching some Go stuff. I think it's fascinating, but again, it's right now for me, it's like, where do I dedicate my brain? Right? Do I dedicate it to completing this project, which I think I need to do? Or do I go off and try and look at other technologies and see what they can offer me? Because I've learned a lot more using this framework, using the .NET libraries, the .NET frameworks over my years. If I switch to something else, the biggest problem is if I switch to something else and I want to be productive, I'm going to be searching and trying to achieve the same things I was doing in the other framework. They might not be idiomatic. They might not even be useful. or even possible, but I'm still going to go searching for them. And then people start adding libraries and doing cool stuff with them. But you know, need drives demand, and that's why C# has evolved the way it has, because people have evolved the way they write code, the way they approach code has changed, and then other languages have come along, and then people want to go to those languages, but they want their language to have those features. You know, F# is probably the biggest reason C# changed initially and started focusing the way it did, because they were inspired by some of the functional behaviors. But you know, it's still something that I can still be productive in and get a lot done in. So, but again, Go will have its own challenges. Go will have its own quirks and idiosyncrasies, and people will have, oh, I need to do this in Go. Oh, how do I do that? I can't do that. Build a library. And now there's a new library, and it comes with a different style, or it comes with, you know, people's experience from other frameworks of the languages. I think that's where it's interesting when things like Java get, what's it called? Superset languages, where they are the same language at the core, but they actually add on the features to the language. So they're kind of binary compatible with their parent language, but they actually are language on top. There's a few for Java, I think. I think it's superset languages, right? It's superset. Oh, it's super something, right? I think you know what I mean, though. I can't think of the actual name right now. There's a few of them that are kind of extensions to the language. Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'm going to keep that up because it's probably useful to read afterwards. So, you know, again, you know, I'm always happy to discuss stuff in the stream, right? It doesn't matter if the stream's necessarily productive, especially if it's on topics like this, which matter to all of us, right? Our opinions, our thoughts, our experience of different languages, different frameworks can bring, you know, different opinions into the stream. So I don't mind having a detour. Yeah, WPF is alive, and it's not used by a lot of developers. Visibly used by a lot of developers, but there is actually quite heavy use of WPF. Does Mark Miller still do that? So, is it Mark Miller I'm thinking of? Is that stuff on the stream? Also depends on a lot what kind of work you want to do. Learning a language like Go or C++ only in very niche cases. C# is more than good enough. Right. Like something like this, right? Actually, one of the things we were talking about the other day was NATs, right? Which I'll never confuse with network address translation again. Like the communication between these services, or rather the promotion stuff, that might use messaging. Well, are the C# libraries up to spec? Is that an area where I need to use a different language and I can kind of populate a queue, or I can notify a service and have that service written in something faster for better interconnects, etc. Maybe that's the case. Normally with C#, or normally with any sort of platform you're doing, you might use a different language because a language is better at doing a thing, right? If you're doing mass crunching of data, maybe C# isn't the language you want to use. Maybe a functional language, F# or a more or more functional or a Python language or something like that, right? But for right now, with what I do and what I need, I don't see C# ever being anything but sufficient for what I need. So when people ask if they should learn these languages, I find it difficult to say yes beyond doing it as a learning experience. I think it's wise to, someone posted, who was it that posted? I've got to learn to align stream names with Discord names. But someone posted the meme. Where was it? Where was that? What was that? That wasn't even random, was it? Oh yeah, the hot take from X. It wasn't a meme. It was the take from X where it was like basically .NET developers aren't charismatic community leader figures, right? The stereotypes that go with languages, etc. I kind of dislike that. Like, if you want to use Java for something, you want to C# for something, you want to C++ for something, go and do it, right? But the reality is, you don't have enough mental capacity to expert level every single one of those technologies, right? Every single one of those languages, the technologies you need. Right? I like I said earlier on, right? MVC. I picked up MVC by doing Ruby on Rails, and then all of a sudden the ideas clicked. I went back to .NET, and the concepts made more sense. Sometimes a language might actually help open up some better better insights into other frameworks of the languages. I don't know where my glasses cloth is. Driving me crazy. There's like a little streak and it just catches the light. Getting good at C++ helps get a better mental model of how computers work. It doesn't make you better at writing normal C# apps code. No. But those insights are useful. And I don't know, what do you think? It looks pretty tight to me. I mean, I've got a slightly better camera. I mean, it definitely, I can see artifacts and stuff every now and then. If I move quickly it won't keep up. But that's going through the Titan. So Mr. Jones is talking about beforehand he was streaming and he had what looked like an awesome green screen, and it was actually XSplit's VCAM software. So before stream I went and got that. I've been using another tool up until now, and it wasn't very good at the green screen component. It artifacted quite a lot. I'm looking at the picture of me over there, by the way. That's why I'm looking to my right. But it looks pretty clear. Doesn't seem to be a lot of buzz or movement around the top of me. I'm wearing a dark t-shirt. My hair normally gets messed up with the software, so yeah, I guess we'll see. But yeah, $60 poorer for that one. Okay, so let's as it is quieting down a little bit, I'll continue on with the coding stuff. Again, the normal rules apply. If you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, you want to jump in and talk about stuff, you're more than welcome to. The stream is the stream. So earlier on today, what I was doing is I was kind of taking these items that are promoting through Kafka. So the idea being that as data comes into my API, I write it to a database. That then produces an event which triggers an integration event and then publishes that out to Kafka. The benefit being of that is that as I get data into this system, these databases are pretty much only just storage. They're not actually what I'm reading. So I can store them very quickly. These are my sources of truth, right? They hold the real data of the system. When they promote out, and when we publish the integration event, one to many consumers could be listening across many different applications. So if I want to integrate data into a search, or I want to integrate data into a metrics application or some sort of analytics platform, Snowflake or something, I can do that. I can build that data source out without ever having to know directly about it in my main software stack. So what I'm going to do for the first time is I'm actually going to build a database schema, and I kind of built that on this morning stream. And that database schema is going to combine these objects, and then it's going to create. Then I'm going to create a GraphQL layer in front of it, and then we're going to start to put a client on top of planning items, right? So earlier on in the stream, earlier on today, I did have a lot of the tests written for the view component, GraphQL Spice. That's the idea. I don't know how far I'll go with that. GraphQL. So the biggest challenge I've had so far is with GraphQL. Normally I've been trying to put GraphQL. Sorry, I was trying to drink tea at the same time. Against my application databases. But obviously that doesn't work when I'm distributing my application databases across many different DBs. So a uniform GraphQL DB is not possible off that, right? Unless you can make it pull from different sources and join them all together in real time and do that's the best. So with this, what I can do is I can create a database that is, again, normalized correctly, but presents a structure that GraphQL can easily sit on top of. Right. So I was looking earlier on. So I went to Frank share stream earlier on, and he had, that's the thing that Deflux posted. He had Microsoft Data APIs. It's an Azure tool. But I was like, is there a local version of that? So Data API is basically, it looks like a platform that just sits on top and offers, it creates REST and GraphQL editions of the same API data. So you can pick and choose which one you use, which I think would be pretty powerful. But I probably should hold that off for a little while. So what I'll focus on is getting this data through here and then putting a GraphQL API on it and seeing what I can build. Because obviously I've still got to deal with permissions and all those sorts of fun things later on. So earlier on today, what I did is I had, we were talking about acquire. So acquire is the basic concept that when I get an entity, I want to have data integrity in my database. So if I'm getting a planning item, right, I go to the database, it's easy to demonstrate that there. Again, I apologize if I'm repeating the same thing that I've repeated over and over and over again. This is an unfortunate side effect of not knowing who I'm streaming to. But basically these planning items, right, they have tenant ID and assigned user ID, etc. When I pass the data in, I don't have those IDs. I have GUIDs that are the global identifiers. So this tenant record is really pointing to this tenant. This tenant ID is a soft foreign key. I'll refer to it as. I don't know what the there's a I'm going to take a drink of water. There is a name for that. But it's essentially a foreign key without the actual constraint to this table. But if I get this data first and I don't have this data yet, I need to create it and then update it later. So I kind of refer to that as an acquire, right? So when I'm creating my planning items, I acquire a tenant ID and I acquire a user ID for the created by, etc. And by acquire, it means if it doesn't exist, create a stub record, like just create an empty record, just so that record exists and the data integrity is complete. if you were to query the data, you're going to get a blank temporarily until it populates in. So what I did earlier on is I ran this and I integrated these two records and tenant ID 1 created by user, and then I ran this. I validated. I got the tenant, and that's the blank one. Now I didn't actually have the message in Kafka for the tenant, so I didn't actually ever have that tenant. That recreated the topic. So I created a new topic quickly, yeah. So right now I have a tenant user. I believe there'll be a user in here as well, right? There's a user in here as well. My own stream, that's weird. So yeah, that's yeah. I need to go and be right back. I need to go and keep an eye on the dog. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. My apologies. We've done a good number on the view account. Okay, so yeah, I've got to integrate the rest of the data. That's what I'm trying to do now. Because then once I've got this data, I can start to see the actual flow through. So apologies now. Oh no. Hi Deflux, how you doing? Good Friday evening to you, sir. Hey, hi. Hot reload isn't working. That's why I don't make any of my gaming stuff available, because as soon as I hit something that like frustrates me, I step away and I'll go and play games for hours. I'm trying to be very good, and that's why I'm streaming as well, because it keeps me focused. Yes. Well, you said hi there, by the way. Have you watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon? When tenant user okay. They interact with someone. They interact with their boss, like a terminal, and it starts with hi. That's how it greets them. Okay, so I actually do track the combination with a unique identifier for tenant user. I'm not sure I need to do that. That would allow me to. That's why. So this is keyed off of that, right? So the key is the identifier. If I want to delete this tenant user, the way you traditionally do that in Kafka is to send a null record. If I don't have a key that I can use, yeah. So that's a pragmatic. I'll go with pragmatic choice to get the data to come through. So yeah. So with that said, what I need to do here is tenant users needs an identifier. Column. That's one that doesn't quite sit as well as it should. That's getting around a constraint. Script, generate DDL to clipboard. We go back over here. Users. This is one of the advantages of having of being a solo developer on something as well, by the way, because I can keep this in line pretty simply. Whereas if I was working with other people, this might be a lot more difficult to do. Although in theory, we'd be working on different components of the system, so it wouldn't matter. Okay, so now my unit test is going to help me dictate what exists is, etc. So when tenant user does not exist, right? So again, I'm going to document now what exists mean. Tenant user is created. So we're going to need a private repository of tenant user. Oh dear. Tenant user. Tenant user repository. We're going to need a private update tenant user handler, my subject. What? No. No, I don't want to reference that. Yeah. Oh dear. I suppose that tells me all I need to know about the quality of the image because it's definitely sharp enough to be able to cut around. Had Rambling Geek been using that when he'd been doing his Ewok impression, that would have been even better, right? Just for reference. That's the Rambling Ewok. It said, had you been using this software, it might have been easier to cut around you, and it's quite easy. The lines are pretty sharp on that mugshot. I'm surprised. My stream normally just sends people to sleep, right? You spent 480 quid on a graphics card. What did you buy? Okay. So okay. Okay. Yeah, that's weird that it does it kind of messes. I mean, this is using a because again, I was going to put the 2080 Super in so I could use the NVIDIA software, right? This means I can carry on using the Titan XP if I want to. This is a Pascal card. So it's not even 10 series. Well, it is 10 series, I suppose. Yeah. The Star Wars. I have one of these that's in my stream PC. Yeah, Pascal. Yeah, 12 gig card. And that makes a lightsaber noise, by the way. It's quite unsettling. Okay. That just filled all that in for me, didn't it? Yes, it did. I don't want it to fill it all in for me. Don't want that. Let's create the update tenant user. Let's create the command handler. So creating this inside of the test is it might seem messy, but it does allow me to validate that the code at least. I should never put any real implementation in, but I'm going to have the libraries reference that I need anyway. So at least if I can structure out stub out the code, then then I know that I can move it into the actual right place once the code compiles. So yeah, my repository of tenant user repository. Well, no, he said that his screen it still was kind of fuzzy, right? Like if I move around, I definitely see some artifacting which I didn't see on yours. But I'm not waving myself around. And it's much better than having the blurry background because then there's a chunk of the screen there. Oh. Welcome back from ads if you were in ads. If you were in ads and you ever are watching what I'm doing, just say and I will stop and wait. Okay, so what I should do here, tenant users created, so tenant user repository dot received, yeah. Arg is tu goes to tu.tenantID equals expected tenant ID. So here's the challenge. I need to validate no, hold on. This will fail for the right reasons. User ID equals expected user ID and tu.identifier. So we need the identifier on there now. Public GUID identifier. Identifier equals expected tenant user identifier. Right? So private read only int expected tenant ID equals 1001. Private read only int expected user ID equals 90. And that's not a string, it's a GUID. GUID.new GUID. So the goal here is I should pass in GUID identifier tenant and user. Expected tenant user identifier. Again, I'm not private read only GUID expected tenant identifier expected user identifier. So this represents the pairing of the both. The reason being that it as an identifier is so that I can actually, I'd want to remove these things, or change them maybe. Well, no, not change them. I want to remove them. I think that I'll probably get rid of this eventually. Being that I have it in the structure right now, I just want to make sure that it's intact. It does give me a quicker way of looking up this entity. If I'm updating it, I don't have to say, oh, where tenant ID is this, and I don't have to resolve those things beforehand. It does give me a quicker way of doing it, but I don't think it saves me that much time. Okay, so that's what the command's going to look like. And yeah. So the problem is I'm not going to resolve these, so this is going to fail. Hi, and good evening. Welcome. Hope you're well. So I'm going to have to acquire the user ID and the tenant ID, right? So I want to make sure that I call them. Now, again, I'm going to refer back to my earlier test to make sure that I'm consistent in how I'm terming these, because yeah, I'm not going to remember that off the top of my head. Acquire user is only called for create. Acquire user. Right. Acquire user is called for user identifier, and acquire tenant is called for tenant identifier. I don't have multiple users in this case, so this is a challenge. Now, again, to get this to work, I need to send in an iSender, because again, I'm going to use a pattern that isn't advised, but I think in terms of keeping the code focused on what it needs to do, I'll stick with it. So this class or this handler is going to acquire the user and acquire the tenant and then create the data that it needs. So it is the side effects of those acquires, in that if they don't exist, it will create. So it'll kind of, again, keep the data integrity of the system intact. But the problem with that is it's kind of, there's a side effect to those calls that I probably wouldn't want. But again, the option is to try and break them out into something else, and then I'm just kind of deferring the problem to another thing. I'm not avoiding that need. So I'm just going to suck it up and deal with that one. My sender equals null, and this sender is a mock for mediators. Publishing interface or command interface. So we're going to send the sender in there. Okay. And then here, sender dot received dot send arg dot is user dot command. This exists because it's been tested elsewhere. Although I say it has. The acquires have not been tested yet. I need to. No, did I? I did test them. Yeah, I made tests around acquire. Yeah, so they do have unit tests independently around them. Look at me being like a professional over there. Huh. X dot user identifier equals expected user identifier. Arg dot is any cancellation token. And again, sender dot received dot send arg dot is acquire tenant dot command. This goes to x dot tenant identifier equals so acquired identifier. Why don't you like that? Is what am I doing wrong there? Why is that not a command? Public record command, acquire tenant. Am I broken or something? It's a record, it's a command. What? Oh, hold on. You'd think I know what assignment versus equality was at this point in my life, wouldn't you? The number of times I made that mistake. I sit there looking at the screen like, ouch. Talk about regrets. Oh dear. Okay. So that's assigning that's so now when we run it, it'll fail because obviously there's nothing there. Yeah, that's completely distracting me from the stream. Thank you. No. Not happening. Oh dear. Emote. Oh dear. That is. Because he was amused making that. I'm on. Why is the streamer mode not working? Streamer mode's not hiding anything. Oh, you have to have it set. Okay, you have it set. Right. To be fair, he's uh, the photoshopping pictures of streamers. The problem is, I offered that picture up. That was more of a demonstration of the quality of the picture. I'll you almost go on height right as well. We'll upload that. I'll put that into my Discord as well. How's that? That's the middle ground. We'll put it into my Discord. Okay, so let's. Oh dear. That was good though, by the way. View application. Updating tenant users. So I'm not too sure about this naming convention because I don't think I'm going to end up with many folders many files underneath here. But for right now, we'll just do that. The idea is that it's the use case, right? That's what I'm doing. I think I'll reflect back on that. Right. So this one is the user does not the tenant user does not exist, right? The question I have here. No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, it'll work. That is revenge because I created I stuck ears on Rambling Geek in my Rambling Ewok class. So that's my payback. What do you have? Show my stream. I don't care. I care. I don't necessarily care at this point. But my wife isn't too amused. Need to go. Wow, we did a lot of chat. We'll post an updated version of the photo that started that in the Discord for your benefit. Fourth, thank you very much for hanging out though. Appreciate it. Take care. Okay. So let's get this at least passing. Spent half an hour on WPF. Messing around with that. Awesome. Okay. So let's make this pass. Update tenant user. So this seems long-winded because I'm making it more long-winded than it was. Off stream when I did this would have taken me about 20 minutes, right? So I'm going a bit longer than it. What I need to do here now is get the user, get the tenant, if that record doesn't exist. But being that I don't have the need for it, being that I haven't got the test for it for the test for it existing yet necessarily, right? I can just write this code in the simplest possible way, and that's what I should do, right? For the unit testing, the next test will break it, and then I'll have a reason to change it, right? So then I can back both things up. So what I'm going to do here is say, okay, so var user ID equals await sender. So again, this is the acquire thing that I'm talking about, right? What this is doing is it's passing the user identifier in. This acquire is then saying, okay, does it exist? If it doesn't, create it. If it does, get it, and return the ID for that, right? So that I get the actual ID. And the tenant ID, same way, right? And then I'm going to say, create a new tenant user, and then add, right? That's all I need to do. So now this test should pass. Oh no, why didn't it pass? Oh, I know why. Because I didn't set up what I expected it to set up, right? So I haven't set up the acquire, right? So sender dot, so what this does is say sender dot acquire user, sender dot send arg dot is acquire user command, right? Returns result dot success expected user ID. Task by task dot from result. And then again, I'm going to do, how many friends do I need there? 1, 2. Yeah, that's fine. And I need the same for the tenant, which is going to ask me about right this second. Yeah. Returns by task dot from result dot success expected tenant ID. So that's getting the actual IDs back. So I'm controlling that. Let's see if my test behaved differently now. There you go. So now I have a pass, right? That would work. The tenant user would actually come in. What will happen is if they don't exist, the user or the tenant, for the actual identifiers that I have, it will create them for me, right? So that's what that's doing. So it's just guaranteeing system integrity. If this tenant user record comes in and asks for the user, that user record doesn't exist, it will create a dummy object there, assuming that user will come along afterwards. So the risk there, and kind of Apex kind of raised this yesterday in terms of like the dead letter queue concept in terms of a prioritized queue. If I never receive that event, right, I've got data there that's invalid, right? So if I had a dead letter queue that says, okay, prioritize the thing, so if I don't actually have the things that a thing needs, then I back off and wait for a while. If those things never come, then that object itself will just drop out at the end and go into a dead letter queue and say, hey, I can't, my data never arrived, right? So you'd have to kind of reinsert it and kind of self-correct. But that's one option. But this way, I could end up with data that just blank data that never gets populated. So in that case, maybe I want to write some sort of validation tool, or I want to write something that just monitors and kind of removes, flushes data or resyncs data. Because again, this view database is not a source of truth at all, right? It is just a view. it should be able to be recreated from the other data sources pretty quickly, right? So ultimately, maybe I have something that has a script. Well, I'm going to have to anyway, right? So if I create new data, or I update a schema, or I need to carry more data through, I can't just go and republish all the events with the new data in them, right? So the likelihood is, I'm going to have some sort of script in the future to go and pull all the data from all the relevant objects and re-update or refresh this view anyway. So it's not necessarily perfect. And that's one of the things I would love to learn more about if someone has that sort of experience, right? If they have the experience of doing those things, then that'd be pretty cool. Okay, so when tenant user exists, so now this test will disprove the other test, right? Because I'm going to essentially do something very similar. I'm going to copy and paste it in the name of time. Now, acquire user is not called, right? Because the user exists. That's the assumption, right? Is not called. Tenant user is not created. Right. Now, doing it this way, I'm essentially proving negatives, right? So, did not receive that, did not receive that, right? Any number of reasons, there could be any number of reasons, sorry, why they wouldn't actually have values, why they wouldn't happen. So this test isn't perfect, right? Basically, what I'm saying is, that will fail. And again, I've got to remove. Actually, I can be more explicit here. You don't receive any tenant user add. These don't need to exist necessarily. Right. So I'm not trying to call these. I'm cleaning up the data. But I'm saying, hey, I don't expect to see any of these calls happen. What I do want to say is fact tenant user was retrieved. So I want to validate that I called single received a single default async arg that is tenant user by identifier spec. Still got to figure out a way of querying those. So let's go over to our specs. Tenant user by identifier spec. This is a specification of tenant user. I specification tenant user. I single result, sorry. I single. And then I'm going to put a constructor on. And this is why this is difficult to validate with anything other than any, because I can't control what that is, because there's no parameters to check. There's no public properties, and I'm not making them public for the sake of testing. That's definitely something I am mindful of. Changing your code to accommodate your unit tests is not something you want to do, because it will create problems. Identifier. This is query dot where tu identifier equals So I'm expecting to call that, is what I'm saying, right? Now this is going to fail. It's failing because all those other things still happen because I don't have any check yet, right? So what I want to do is go into the actual update tenant user. What have you done in Discord now? Oh dear. Oh, good. I lined myself up for that one solidly. That's not something I ever expected. Var tenant user. So this is going to use that spec, right? Existing. If existing is not null, return result.success. So the problem with this one is I need to well, not the problem, it's just I don't need to return any other state, right? That's funny. So this is only ever going to be a success because I don't really care about any other state. If I actually cared about knowing, you know, if this was conflicted or not, I could return a conflict here, but it's not really. I'm not trying to. I'm calling it update, right? But the weird thing is, and again, my naming convention is something that I want to review because the weird thing is here. I'm not updating anything. I'm actually creating it if it doesn't exist. So this is kind of more acquire than anything else. Okay, so those tests should all pass. They don't pass. That's bad. What am I missing? Updating handle, updating tenant users, line 29. Why am I getting to line 29? Oh, because I didn't. Yeah, okay. They should pass when I actually make the code pass, right? Tenant user repository dot when repository goes to right returns new tenant user and this doesn't actually matter, right? Identifier equals expected tenant user identifier. Again, for the purpose of this test, this doesn't matter because it doesn't matter what I get. Why does that not? I really shouldn't leave Discord up while I'm streaming. It's just like it's not clever of me. Why do you not want call info when called? Right, that's what it should do. Info. Why don't you like that? The delegate's height could not be inferred. So there's dozens of times. What am I messing up? Am I doing the same? No, I'm not doing any double equals or equality or anything. I'm essentially doing this. Arg any tenant used by identifier spec. The delegate type could not be inferred. Done this. What have I done wrong? Do ci.arg when do. No, that's a when do. That's not when returns. Returns new user. That's exactly what I'm doing. So unless tenant user is blocked in some way, shape, or form, which I don't think it is, what am I doing wrong here? ID single default, unless I'm missing a oh, there we go. I was missing a expected an extra. That closes that one off. Come on. The difference is I don't have a cancellation token in that one. I'm not doing anything special. Oh, huh? Exactly what I'm doing. User repository. I'm mixing and matching. That's what I'm doing. I'm mixing and matching. That's my fault. Arg.any cancellation token. Need to go to bed. Have a good weekend. Thanks for the love. Rambling Geek, thank you very much. Take care. And I'll see you about. Have a good one. Okay, so let's run these tests and let's see. Okay, so we have passing tests. So here's how this should work now. So I have a tenant user receiver. So we're going to uncomment this, right? This is going to import that view application, right? This takes identifier, tenant identifier, GUID. I'm not capturing the name right this second. So let's come back around on that one. This isn't going to hurt. Now over here, what I do is in my program, I say, okay, let's add services to add transient tenant user receiver. And then I just say, okay, well, builder add event receiver tenant user integration event plus the tenant user receiver. Now, in theory, I've got the tenant user integration event set up there. I've got tenant users there. If I run this project, I should have a tenant user. I should be able to go here. There's my record. It's created tenant 3. So that tenant didn't exist. And it's created user 2. There's user 2. So I've got some very, very curious data here, but that does now at least work. So that created the data I needed. There we go. That's that. So 10 users. Added tests. Added receiver. Again, this is what I've been trying to work towards with my Kafka libraries, right? So that is all that was required to get the Kafka event out, right? Create a receiver for the event, and then wire it up in terms of here, and that will actually create a consumer queue that will run in parallel. So now let's create the final one, right? Which is the user. Let's do this. I want to continue doing it the right way, right? It might be slightly droll, it might be a little bit boring, but the benefits of actually doing it this way far outweigh me rushing through it for the purpose of the stream. Update user. This one is more update worthy as well, because the user has a name and email, right? It's blank by default, but the user information coming in, if I go to the users, right, over here, I have a name and email. I actually do have verified and active as well, so I could carry on more information through here. I'm not going to worry about that right this second. The event source I don't really mind. I'm not doing anything with right now. That will mainly come into play when it comes to what changed when. So let's go to the code. When user does not exist. Now in this case, I don't actually have to care about any acquires. I don't have to care about anything like that, because the data is standalone. Just kind of looking at food. Apologies. Okay. So this is going to be a range act. When user does not exist, user is created. One way of writing this to make more tests would be to say, okay, the email set, the username set, etc. But I'm just going to say, okay, well, arrange. I'm going to end up saying user repository dot received dot add async, but this is going to be is user u goes to u dot identifier equals expected user identifier, and u dot email equals expected email, and u dot Did it again. Equals expected user name. And actually, I'm going to drop the word username from that because it's not a username; it's a name, right? Okay, so let's put that stub that layer out. Private read only string expected email equals email at email.com. Name private GUID, right? Private I repository of user repository. This is a little easy to stub out as far as the test goes because it's kind of simplistic. Okay. Okay. So this isn't going to acquire user at all. That's not what this is going to be. This is going to be update user. So our subject is going to be slightly different. I'm just trying to make a food order, so that's why I'm kind of looking down. My apologies. You think you want food? It's a very strange day. Private. So this would be update user dot handler. Update user dot handler is my subject, right? And again, I'll stub it out as I did before. And then update user, create type update user. Just trying to consider what I want to eat. So my apologies. Whoa, what are you doing? I stubbed it out. So basically, because I'd written the test, it wrote the code, which is not exactly what I wanted to happen there. Because that's not kind of the purpose of the test, right? The purpose of the test is to validate that things are breaking before I actually worry about making them pass. Let's do that. let's move this to view application. Updating users. That might actually run first time. Oh no, it won't. It won't yet. Subject equals new user repository. And we handle, we don't need that one. Subject. And that's update user. That's expected user identifier, email, and name. Apex, good evening. How are you doing? How's things? You playing Helldivers as well? And would you recommend it? If you are. I see Anwin, I've got Anwin's stream up, that's why I know it. Right, calling it quits. Catch you later. Mr. Jones, thank you very much for hanging out for so long. Pretty late for you. Appreciate it. Thank you for the stream as well. It was fun hanging out there as well. Take care. Yeah, my friend bought me a copy of Helldivers. He's gifted me a copy and I haven't accepted it yet. I'm kind of scared, like, if I'm gonna get into it. So I do have a copy sat there waiting for me, but I'm like, do I, don't I? So I'm just finishing a dinner order, so I'm going to order dinner. That'll be about 40 minutes, and that will give me enough time to stream and finish that up. That's like it. So what I'm testing here is that I can accept data. There we go, updated user. So now essentially, if I wire that up, right? This would work, right? So if I go to here and I say this is an iEvent receiver of user integration event, right? Then I inject my iSender here. And then in here, I do sender.send async await, and I send a new update user dot command. That's that user. And now I send in my event identifier, my event dot email, my event dot name, cancellation token. I go to my program and I services dot transient user receiver. Then I wire that up to the event, add event receiver, user integration event goes to user receiver. So the way this works is in the code, even if I add these, as long as they have to be in here, otherwise it won't register them, right? Is the goal. The benefit being that what I can do is I can then say, okay, well, distribute this library 5 times, and in one I'll configure like these two, and in the other I might configure these other 3 or whatever, and then I can kind of scale out the clients by just deploying new instances of the same class, but all the code's still contained together. So for development purposes, I can do it all in one, but then when I actually go to distribute the services, I can scale them out without actually without changing very much other than the configuration. Okay, so that will go from Liquid Square users. So I should be able to start the consumer up now. So just for reference, there is 2 users in there that are empty, but there is a user in the queue that has the right details. So what we should see is a 3rd user with a name and email if this runs perfectly fine. So I'm just going to start that consumer up. There's our 3rd user, right? So now that got consumed from the queue. So now I can go back and do the test on the exists, etc. Create user, update user, tests, user does not exist. Obviously, if that was, I'm going to push all these right a second because I haven't pushed them off my machine all day. Knowing my luck, I'll get a problem. Wow. Lost all my viewers. My stats would be failing. Well, I'll be. Hey, I'm still viewing. Thank you, I appreciate it. Oh, Apex, if you're actually looking at the stream, I don't know, but I wanted to show that the acquire stuff is now in there. So the way it works is when if I'm updating let's say updating a planning item, in here what it does is it calls acquire on the created by user, and it calls acquired. Thank you for the look, Ryan. It's the challenge of streaming at an odd time. When you get into a schedule of streaming, and then you stream at an odd time, obviously the viewers that are normally coming into your streams at that time aren't there. So you run the risk of messing with your stats by doing off-hour streams. So I was I was looking at the numbers. I was like, oh no. So yeah, the acquire. This is all this does, and then each of these acquires just literally says, okay, does it exist? If it's not null, then return the ID. If it doesn't, then create it, and it stubs it out with an empty object, right? And the tests back that up. And what that means is that this can then go and get added, and even if the data doesn't exist for it, the consistency is still there. So now these other events would come in and update them. Man, I had so much stuff to do in the office today. Couldn't catch the end this morning. No worries. So this keeps the system intact. Now this planning item has created by in the tenant ID, and there is a tenant for one. Now it's empty because I actually didn't export that data, and it has a user of 1, right? But this tenant user created 3 and 2, so 3 is there and not there, and 2 is there. Now here's the real test. If I go here to full stack and I start this up, I should be able to create a new tenant with a user, and the data should all populate in there. And then I'll come back and fix that other unit test. What live on the edge, stare at the abyss and say, meh, seem better. Not sure I follow. think I'll put CastOS on my little Intel PC. I think that is definitely good planning, not over-engineered. It works for what we're doing now, and I think it's worth revisiting. But I think I can change it later. Welcome back, defaults. Acquire, yeah. I would do it that way. Acquire, yeah. Nice. I redeemed. The redemption message came. Yeah. NPM, Angular, scary stuff. Oh yeah, this. That's not scary. Blazor. Now that's scary. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we are going to go over here. We're going to go to the placeholder login. We're going to open that up. No, we're not. We're not going to do that. We're going to do it from scratch. So we're going to create simple tenant number 2. And this is going to be Ian Blazor. Hi Blazor. And then when we send that, what should happen is we should almost immediately see a tenant appear in here. Oh no, 400 bad requests. Why? Why did that break? Didn't work. Oh, I know why. Bad request because the tenant, it doesn't accept the number 2. It doesn't matter. Number 2. Okay, that's green. So now we should go over here. There you go. It appeared. Ah, the other one appeared as well. That's weird. There's my tenant users. There's my user, Ian Blazor. And it created a dummy record. What was that from? That's interesting. Where did identifier B06 come from? Eight. Where did that tenant come from? There's B06. FA. Ooh. I created a user where I should have created a tenant. Interesting. What did I do that from? Update tenants. How the heck did I do that? So there's the tenant 8A. Malvi, welcome. Ooh. You're a pro. Right this second, I'm very much doubting that. Why is that doing that? Yeah, multi-tenancy. Yeah. So what I'm working on right this second is I have diagram time. I'm working on consuming data into a shared database for Vue. And how the heck did I create that record? So our user got in there, the correct user got into the right place. So there's our new tenant, right? Simple tenant number 2. B06FA. That's that one. Where did this record come from? This record. Let's try that once more. Let's see if it queued. Any chance that you already no. Why would I log? That's the challenge. I don't like logging. A collision on UUID would be horrible. Next tenant. Friendly Bob. Okay. So I did it again. There's Friendly Bob. There's the tenant user. That's the right ID for the tenant user, right? Because that's tenant users. There's that one. If 50% of your cloud costs are not from logging things you never read, then you're doing something right. So right now it's a case of matching up the GUID. So I don't. So Melvi, I don't think that it's duplicate. No, it's definitely not colliding on IDs. It's just it's like it's behaving. So this tenant record, what is that 6A9? That's that one. That's that identifier. It's creating a tenant off this user. Did I mix up? Hold on. No. So it created a tenant off that user ID. And it created a user off that tenant ID. Right? That's the extra record. So this will be that user somewhere. No. There's the tenant. So it created a user off the tenant and a tenant off the user. But this is kind of a choir. And there's 7.7. Could it be the read or create thing you did? Maybe it's generating an ID and adding it. So the tenant and you, the weird thing is the tenant and the user. Oh. There's my answer. That's that. This record. Watch. I bet you I'm flipping the identifiers when I go to get the tenant user. And I bet I create those dummy records but the others come in and create the real records. So the tenant user isn't actually getting updated. Yeah, it's not getting updated correctly. So the tenant user receiver, I pass in, see, tenant identifier and user identifier. There's my problem. Let's restart the consumer. Let's try that once more and validate. So it relies upon me passing the data in the correct order. They're both GUID, so as far as the system is concerned, it doesn't know. So what happens is that tenant user comes in and it flips those things. So now it says, oh, this tenant doesn't exist and this user doesn't exist. So it creates those records, the tenant for the user and the user for the tenant, right? Now the concerning thing is that it still should have created a fourth record. So let's go create bubble print. Ellen Jones. So when I create this, should see there's bubble print, no extra record, no extra user. There we go. Okay. And there's our fourth record there, our 8 and 8. So 8, user 8, links with tenant 8. There we go. So that was user error, and that was because I do not have any tests around this piece. So let's go and put a test on there. And then I'm gonna flip it again and validate the test will catch it, and then I can know that it's going to be the right thing. Now it's lucky that that's there, but I flipped it. Consumer tests. When planning item integration event received. So this one I did right, but I didn't do when tenant user integration event received. Yesterday I upgraded my license to the full JetBrains suite. Nice. Only I could get sponsored by JetBrains. That would be fun. Private read-only GUID, expected identifier, private read-only GUID, expected tenant identifier, and then expected user identifier, and then the fact is, what term it has in here? Update planning item command is sent. Update tenant user command is sent. Yeah, they do make it very much worth your while for the full suite, right? Private eye sender equals null. So I kind of like the way that this works with and substitute the code. You don't end up with like mock generics everywhere. You don't end up with that. You literally are talking about the thing that you are really talking about. It just happens to be a mock at the point you create it. So I kind of like and substitutes way of doing this. Private tenant user receiver subject was null. Subject equals new tenant receiver. Okay, so this should fail. Expected to receive exactly one call. Identifier, user identifier. didn't do. Let's go now, make sure that that works properly. I should just be able to flip these around. And that test should now pass. There you go. Okay. Tenant, user, receiver. Add flipped args. Added tests for. Okay. So that cleans that up. Had I had that test, that would have caught that, right? So I would have actually known that sooner and been able to identify it. Doesn't make it perfect, right? And I'm not necessarily gonna definitely catch that 100% of the time. But it's gonna help. Okay, so I think I increased my test coverage quite considerably there. Let's have a look. Yeah, quite considerably. Now it's 147 unit tests. Like I know what I'm doing for once. So for anyone new joining the stream, if you're interested in what I'm doing, if you want to ask questions, you're more than welcome to ask. The stream is not necessarily about me doing code. I'm using a lot of technologies here, so you're more than welcome to chat about what I'm doing, and I will engage where I can. This code base is not open source. However, there is other projects I do on stream that I do have open source and do use to reference architecture and stuff like that. So, not the only project for the stream. I don't do much bot dev on regular schedule streams. Okay. So let's see where am I food wise. Okay, my food's going to be delivered in about 5 minutes. So the main purpose of what I wanted to do tonight is kind of done, right? The next step is the kind of the boring step. It's the when user exists, right? What do I do then, right? Fact, name. Well, actually, user exists and no changes to data. No changes to name and email, right? And the test is user is not updated. And then when user exists and changes to name, and sadly to be comprehensive because of the way they do the testing style, then I'm going to end up with when user exists and changes to email. And the purpose of that is to make sure I'm covering both cases explicitly. Like if just email changes or just name changes, then I get the record updates. If I change my testing style, then I could accommodate those things, but I'm more than happy to user is updated, right? And in other cases, I do actually wrap them up into one. So user is updated. There's no events or anything off this. It's just simply the user should be updated when the thing changes. In this case, the user is not updated. I'm going to have to set up all the test data, the mod data. So with those in place, then I'm confident that there's a pretty comprehensive set of tests around. Well, not. It's not a perfect set of tests. It's not comprehensive. It's a good starting point. Is where I'd put it. Because then I need to see data flow through. So my next step is then to put a GraphQL API in front of this, right? So what does that look like? Well, I think I'm just going to use Hot Chocolate and get Hot Chocolate installed on the API side, and then do some tinkering with that. So the purpose of the GraphQL endpoint would be that I can say, okay, well, go and get me all planning items, the user for that planning item, right? I can kind of navigate down the path, or I can create the structure that I need in this database to support that. I'm going to have to learn about tenancy there. So this is tenanted, right? When my user is accessing this, they have the tenant identifier, right? So they'll be able to say, hey, this tenant identifier, go and get me the user data for this. So I'm going to have to learn how to kind of constrain the queries for GraphQL to the tenant that matters for this user. So authenticated users in GraphQL. So there's going to be a little bit of learning there. Yeah, I think that's pretty much where I need to be for now. If you're hanging out, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you're new, you're more than welcome to join the Discord and ask more questions if you're interested. Getting there. It's definitely starting to feel. I mean, it's not exactly tiny, is it? 45 projects, but it is coming together. It is working pretty smoothly right this second. So I'm enjoying this. This is fun development for me. Yeah. Okay. Well, then I will end up here. Let's do UI next. Well, that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get to that point naturally, and I get that it can be a little bit boring, watching this stuff, and the UI will definitely start to engage people a little bit more because you'll be able to see what's happening. But I don't want to rush ahead and leave things behind at the same pace because, again, I know what happens when you rush to get to something, and so I'm trying to do the bare minimum while still moving forward. So the GraphQL API, I'm going to try and work on over the weekend, so that by Wednesday's stream, I'm basically just trying to put that UI in there. So, and that first UI will likely be Angular. I want to keep that separation. There's no way I'm jumping into Blazor with that. I want to tinker with more. I want to tinker more with Blazor on the water project because that gives me some experience there and gives me some confidence pieces. And maybe we stick a GraphQL API on a water or something like that to really flex that. But we can tinker with those things, and that's the purpose of water, right? Is to be able to experiment a little bit more freely while people have context. So, okay, well that is me. Anyone? No one in our little community that's streaming. So I'm gonna read Probably going hanging out and watching for a bit. Triforce, who's that? Force 1, who's it? Mobile app dev, React Native. Nice. Well, let's head over there. Thank you for the recommendation. We'll head over there, see something new, and yeah, let's go and trade. Thank you very much for hanging out. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate it. I will be back on Monday, Monday morning, my time. All the streams do get uploaded to YouTube, and there is a Discord if you're more than welcome to join to ask further questions or follow up on anything. So thank you all. Take care. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you soon. Good night.